My parents told me my daughter meant nothing to them, and yet every Monday at exactly 8:45 a.m., I sent them $650 without fail, not because I loved them, but because I was terrified of what would happen if I stopped, because silence from them always turned into some new disaster I'd have to clean up. For 8 months, that transfer was automatic, like breathing after drowning. I'd drag myself home from the night shift, step into our tiny living room where Lily drew flowers and princesses, totally unaware that her mom was financing peace with people who didn't care whether we existed or not. My parents never asked if we were eating, but they sure reminded me when they wanted something, "We need new tires. Your father's pills aren't cheap. Make sure the cable bill is paid." There was no gratitude, just a list of demands like I was their employee, like raising their granddaughter alone wasn't enough of a job already. Lily believed in fairy tales, and in her mind grandparents belonged to those stories. She'd ask if they would come to her art show or watch her practice ballet, and I'd nod like hope wasn't a lie. I tried to fill the void with everything I could: bedtime melodies instead of stories from grandma, chocolate chip cookies instead of surprise visits, promises that maybe next time they'd remember she existed. When her 7th birthday approached, she said she only wanted one thing: "I want grandma to see my dress." So I rented a squeaky bounce castle, bought confetti that stuck to everything, and set up a party that stole half my paycheck, but I didn't care because Lily's smile made it worth it. Every car that turned onto our street made her jump to her feet like magic was arriving, her eyes glowing brighter than the candles on her cake. "Do you think they're almost here?" she asked, clutching the card she made for them that had crooked hearts and glitter that refused to stay glued, and I kept saying maybe even when the sun started lowering like a closing curtain. When the last guest left and balloons sagged, she sat on the porch holding a cupcake that drooped in the humidity, whispering, "Maybe they got lost," and my heart broke right along with her voice. That night, after she fell asleep with dried icing on her cheek, my phone pinged. A message from my mother: "Glad she had fun. Tell her we're busy." Busy. Too busy for their own flesh and blood. I called anyway, desperate for some hint they still cared, but my father sighed like I was an inconvenience and said the line that sliced through every hope I had left: "Your kid means nothing to us." Then he hung up, and the world didn't crash, it just stopped pretending to care. Because the second I stopped sending that money, they didn't beg. They attacked. After that call, I sat frozen on the kitchen floor, phone still in my hand, staring at the wall like if I looked long enough, maybe the words would rearrange into something kinder. Something that didn't crush my daughter's existence into nothing. But the silence that followed wasn't confusion. It was clarity. I finally saw them without the fog of hope. They were never going to love Lily. They barely loved me. Something inside me cracked open, not loud, just a quiet shift, like the way a door closes softly before a storm hits. I opened my banking app, thumb hovering over the schedule I'd lived by for months, that cursed Monday transfer. My heart thudded as I tapped cancel, 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 each confirmation stealing back a piece of myself they had fed on for too long. When the $650 transfer disappeared, so did the version of me that begged for their approval. For the first time, my silence wasn't fear. It was power. It took them exactly 36 minutes to notice. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother: "Are you going to send the grocery money or not?" No greeting. No apology. Not even Lily's name. I didn't respond. Then my father: "We're waiting." Like I was late for a shift I never signed up for. I turned the phone face down and made breakfast with Lily, pretending the world outside our kitchen didn't exist. She giggled when I shaped her pancake into a goofy heart, syrup smudging her nose, blissfully unaware that the bridge between her and the grandparents she adored had just been burned to ash. Around lunch, another message came: "Order us dinner tonight. Chinese is fine." That one made me laugh. A short, humorless sound. They erased my daughter with a sentence, then expected egg rolls like nothing happened. I ignored them again, and each time I let them sit in their entitlement without a response, the air felt lighter. Hours passed. No more texts. I allowed myself to believe maybe, finally, they'd stay gone. But narcissists never leave quietly. The next morning, I woke to missed calls from an unknown number. Then a voicemail. A man's voice, polite, rehearsed. "This is Mark, your parents' landlord. Just calling because their rent didn't come through. They told me you handle that." My stomach clenched, anger simmering. They didn't just rely on me. They built their entire survival on the assumption I would never stop paying for their comfort. I called back and simply said, "They'll have to handle their rent themselves now." A long silence on his end, then a slow, understanding, "Good for you." When I hung up, I felt taller. But victory never lasts long with people like them. Because instead of reflecting or apologizing, my parents decided to do what they do best, make themselves the victims. At 3 p.m., my notifications blew up. Comments. Tags. Shares. A livestream replay from my mother, crying into a camera, titled, "Our daughter cut us off and took our grandchild away." And what they said on that livestream was only the beginning of their cruelty. I didn't plan on watching their livestream, but the notifications wouldn't stop. Everyone I knew in that small town had apparently tuned in to witness my parents' theatrical meltdown. Curiosity eventually won over peace, so I hit play. The video opened with my mother clutching a tissue like an actress in a bad soap opera, tears perfectly placed but never falling, while my father sat beside her, arms crossed, playing the stoic victim. She sniffled dramatically. "We have always supported our daughter, always, but Penelope is spreading lies about us. Saying we don't love her child." Supported? Lies? I almost choked. My father leaned toward the camera with a sigh that made him look like the wounded hero of some tragic story. "We tried our best with her. But she forces money on us, and now she's denying us the right to see our granddaughter." My jaw dropped. Forces money? Right to see Lily? They had refused every invitation, every milestone, every moment that mattered. Then came the dagger. My father held up a printed photo of Lily in her birthday dress. Her smile was beautiful, bright, real. And he said, with a coldness that could freeze oceans, "This child is not part of our lives anymore. She means nothing to us." He doubled down on the very sentence that destroyed me, and spoke it publicly. Under the video, comments were already forming sides. Some believed them immediately, "Kids these days are ungrateful." Others were disgusted, "Who says that about a 7-year-old?" I knew better than to reply, but anger had hands and it was squeezing my chest so tight I thought I'd scream. I turned my phone off, locked the screen, tossed it across the couch like the truth would burn me if I held on too long. But silence never lasts, especially when drama is brewing. That afternoon, my brother Ryan called. The exhaustion in his voice matched mine. "They're lying about you online," he said. "I know," I whispered. "Pen. I've been sending them money too. Not as much as you. A couple hundred here and there. Gas, meds, bills." I froze. "They told me they had nothing," he continued. "They never mentioned you were helping." A heavy, bitter laugh escaped me. "They told me the same. They said you refused to help." There it was, the truth laid bare. We were never carrying children to them. We were banks with emotional strings attached. "I stopped payments too," Ryan said quietly. "Good. They don't deserve us," I replied, and it felt like opening a window in a suffocating room. But my parents weren't done. They weren't satisfied with playing the victims online. They wanted a bigger audience, more pity, more fuel. So they did something neither of us expected. They showed up, uninvited, at a family reunion that weekend, ready to smear my name in every direction they could. And for once, the family didn't take their side. Because when the truth came out in front of everyone, someone recorded everything. The family reunion was supposed to be a peaceful backyard gathering, kids laughing near the sprinklers. Plastic cups filled with lemonade, sunlight bouncing off the picnic tables. I wasn't there. I wasn't invited. My parents, however, showed up like they were walking into a courtroom where they were the plaintiffs, victims of their cruel daughter who dared to defend her child. They immediately began their performance. My mother cried dramatically to anyone who would listen, going on about how I'd stolen Lily away and twisted the truth to make them look like monsters. She clutched her chest like she might collapse from heartbreak at any moment. My father nodded sternly beside her, shaking his head as if the disappointment of raising me weighed more than gravity. But what they didn't know was that my cousin, Marissa, had seen the live stream. She had heard every venomous word they publicly spit about Lily. And she wasn't going to let them rewrite the story. Someone captured the whole confrontation on their phone. The moment my mother said, "We only want to be part of our granddaughter's life." "We've always loved her," Marissa snapped. She stepped forward, phone in hand, voice loud enough to silence the party. "Loved her?" she echoed. "Before or after you told the entire internet she didn't matter?" The crowd shifted, murmurs rising. My mother blinked rapidly, her fake tears drying up. My father tried to interrupt, but Marissa pressed play on her screen. There it was, the livestream clip, my father's voice, ice cold, crystal clear. "This child is not part of our lives anymore. She means nothing to us." The silence that followed was thick and suffocating. Every aunt, uncle, cousin, people who once admired them, stared like they were finally seeing the rot beneath the paint. Uncle Dave set his drink down and said firmly, "If that's how you feel about your granddaughter, you don't deserve this family." No one stepped in to defend them. No one offered comfort. No one even made eye contact as my parents stood frozen, stripped of their lies. And then, as if humiliation wasn't enough, my phone buzzed while all of this was happening. Messages popped up one after another, videos being shared, comments piling up, people who barely knew us messaging sympathy. The truth was trending through the town faster than my parents could deny it. They left the reunion in silence, no dramatic exit, no final remark, just two people forced to face the ugliness of their own words. Ryan called me later that evening, laughter mixed with disbelief. "You'll never believe what just happened," he said. And as he filled me in, describing every stunned face and every awkward sip of lemonade, something inside me felt lighter. Justice had gotten a head start without me lifting a finger. But the fallout wasn't done. My parents were cornered, and cornered people lash out. Harder than before. I thought cutting them off would free me. Instead, it made them desperate. And desperation can be dangerous, especially when family decides to make you their enemy. After the reunion disaster, I expected retaliation. My parents were the kind of people who couldn't live without being seen as the heroes of every story, and when the town stopped believing their act, they lost the only power they had left, pity. Their social media accounts suddenly disappeared, their church quietly removed them from the community page, and even their closest friends stopped defending them. They weren't victims anymore. They were exposed. But instead of coming after me, they did something I never anticipated, they disappeared. Days passed without a single call, text, or demand for money. Not a word. Not even a guilt trip. It was like they finally realized their hateful words had consequences. Meanwhile, life for me and Lily slowly shifted into something that felt like peace. Real peace. The kind that didn't cost $650 every Monday morning. The kind where I could drink coffee without checking my bank account anxiously. The kind where Lily didn't wait by the door for people who would never show up. Ryan started visiting more often. He'd bring snacks and tell Lily jokes that made her snort laugh. She started drawing him into her pictures, stick-figure family portraits where Uncle Ree always stood right next to her. One afternoon, while she was scribbling stars on the sidewalk with chalk, she looked up at me and said, "Mommy, when I'm famous, I'm going to buy you a big house and a real castle for Uncle Ree. But no room for mean people." I didn't cry. I smiled. Because she already understood something it took me years to learn: love isn't proven with money. It's proven with presence. A week later, an envelope showed up in the mail. Cream-colored. My name written in handwriting I recognized instantly, my Aunt Virginia's. Inside, a single sentence: "Some people choose pride over love. You chose your child." And that's what a real family looks like. I placed that note in a drawer, not to remember what I left behind, but to honor what I protected. Lily asked me once more if her grandparents might come next year for her birthday, and I finally told her the truth, not the cruel version, not the raw version, just the one she needed to grow up strong. They won't be coming anymore. They don't make good choices. She nodded thoughtfully, then shrugged with a tiny smile. That's okay. We can invite Uncle Ree instead. That night, I tucked her into bed and realized the silence filling our home wasn't loneliness. It was safety. It was healing. It was ours. I used to think cutting ties was losing family. Now I know it was making room for the family we deserved. Because sometimes love isn't given. It's chosen, and I always choose Lily. If you've ever had to walk away from the people who should have loved you most, just know, you're not alone.